What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Baking Analyst channel. We've seen a lot of negativity in the crypto space over the past few days, but today we want to have a bit of a look on the bright side, something more positive. Today I'm going to be showing you how I am personally investing $5,000 into the Arbitrum ecosystem in order to not only maximize my chances of an airdrop, but also earn some crazy high yields in a largely low-risk manner. If you're new to the channel, here at the Baking Analyst, we are on a journey to make DeFi mainstream knowledge. So if you want to help us out with that, hit the subscribe button and the like button, helps us out a ton. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into today's video. We'll be talking about why we're looking at Arbitrum in the first place, because as we know, we only want to do things that are worth the effort. And then we will be looking at the entire investment set up for $5,000. And it doesn't matter how much you actually want to allocate to Arbitrum, because everything in this video will function on a percentage basis. Whether you're investing $10,000, $100,000, or even $1 million, it doesn't matter because the logic remains the same. And for each of these investments, we will be going from low risk to high risk, low return to highest return. So if you want to see the craziest alpha that we're getting right now, do stick around till the end. First of all, let's have a look at why we want to target Arbitrum. Arbitrum has a really high total value locked. So as we see here on this page, Arbitrum is actually the 5th largest chain by TVL. That is almost twice that of Optimism and twice that of Chronos. Not to mention, Arbitrum hosts a range of second generation DeFi apps. And what I mean by that is that a lot of the dApps that are building on Arbitrum, they're not just some fork of what we've seen before, like Uniswap forks. There are a lot of new second generation products here. So think about things like perpetuals, derivative exchanges, and so on and so forth. Those that are likely to be beneficiaries from the FTX fallout. The third reason why we're looking at Arbitrum so closely is because there is not yet a token, and we do know that a token is going to launch at some point. This, guys, could be even bigger than the Optimism airdrops that came out earlier, especially given the level of participation in the Arbitrum ecosystem, higher number of projects, and the higher TVL, meaning that demand for any new token is likely to be higher. So let's move on to the next part of the video, which is the part that you actually wanted to watch, how I am allocating $5,000 in the Arbitrum ecosystem. So let's first start with the overall allocation principle. So as you see, this is my actual portfolio. So I'm not yet going all in and bottom fishing, seeing as Contagion might still have some ways to go. However, I'm doing this on a 50-50 basis, so keeping about 50% in stables and 50% deployed in the market, ready to take advantage of any upswing, while also still having cash or quasi-cash on the side to buy in if prices go even lower. Now, my account size is of an amount that I'm willing to risk, so as with anything, do check your own risk tolerance before going any further. So let's now start with the lowest risk protocol, which is where we will be parking our stables, $2,500. And I will be choosing Stargate. Why Stargate? Well, they have just launched the Frax pool, which is paying out about 11% APY on this decentralized stablecoin. Now, Frax has held up really well in terms of price. It hasn't lost its peg even amidst all this drama. And we do see that you also can consider doing this on Optimism. Now, Optimism is paying out slightly higher APY. However, the liquidity is a bit lower, and quite a bit lower actually, so that might get diluted much quicker. Now, many of you who have been around for a while might think, well, isn't that a bit risky? You're locking your tokens on the bridge, and bridges have been known to be high value targets. Well, we do need to remember that Stargate operates on layer 0 technology. And what is coming to layer 0? A native USDC stablecoin directly from Circle. Now, this makes it much less likely that layer 0 and its associated protocols will go insolvent because of a bridge exploit. And apart from this, they use a slightly different technology stack from the traditional bridge, wherein liquidity is simply locked within 2 different smart contracts on 2 different chains. That is also potentially the reason why Stargate takes longer to bridge your funds, but that is besides the point. So now let's move on to the higher risk investments in this video. The second thing that I'll be looking at in this video, and I'll call it the medium risk option, is none other than GMX. Now, GMX has this liquidity provider token that actually forms an index of various blue chip coins. Specifically, you can go to the dashboard on GMX and find the composition of the GLP token. Now, you might be wondering, well, isn't it more risky to buy this token than to provide liquidity on a Generation 1 DEX? Well, you're essentially doing the same thing, because when you provide liquidity on a DEX, you're simply exchanging your 2 tokens that you provide for an LP token, which is what this thing is. This just allows you to redeem any of these assets. So as you can see, GLP, about half of it is in stablecoins. And in this case, they are all things that I would like to be exposed to. So Ethereum, Bitcoin, stablecoins, diversify. So I mentioned this in a previous video, why you might want to diversify your stablecoin holdings. And we also have some Chainlink and Uniswap thrown in. Well, these of course might be considered much higher risk than Bitcoin or Ethereum right now. The weight is relatively low, only at 1% each. So I'm okay with doing that. And the current yield on GLP can be found if you go to the Earn tab. And in this case, we are doing 50.1% APR. That's 50.1% APR of something that's made up of half stablecoins and half blue chips. So that to me sounds like something that's much, much higher than what you will get in your usual Generation 1 DEX. And the benefit of this is that the rewards are actually paid out in ETH. The reason they're able to do this is because the yield doesn't actually come from printing their own native token, but it comes directly from traders' losses, especially leveraged traders' losses. And we all know that disclaimer that 95% of traders lose money, which also means that 95% of counter traders, in this case what we're doing, playing the house, would make money. So this is essentially how GLP works, and that will be forming half of the Degen portfolio. Now of course here it is about 1.28. This price has gone up slightly since I've allocated my position, but that is around the allocation that I hold. The third layer, or the highest risk layer, is only high risk because it adds an additional layer of smart contract risk and is in a project that has somewhat lower TVL. That is actually Plutus DAO. Now Plutus DAO offers these tokens called PLV tokens. There are a range of tokens on Arbitrum that you can use on this platform, but we are most interested in the Vault tab. Specifically, we will be taking our GLP from step 1 and depositing that into a vault. We will essentially be depositing GLP into this contract, which then gives us PLV GLP in return. Now, there are several caveats to this. First of all, your GLP will continue earning yield. However, it earns yield inside that smart contract, which automatically takes a 10% cut off of the yield you might originally have gotten from your GLP. So from 50%, we will be looking at something like 45% instead on that GLP. Now, that Ethereum that you got from staking your GLP in that contract is then auto compounded and adds to the value of this PLV GLP token. And that explains why this PLV token is always slightly above the price of GL, because that PLV GLP is essentially a receipt to your share in this overall pool. And because the ETH is also compounded back into GLP, there will always be more GLP than PLV GLP. Now you might ask, well, why are you giving up 10% of your yield? Well, the answer to that is in this page over here. We do see that we can then take our PLV GLP and then stake it on this farm for another 53.5% APR. And what did we mention just now? You're still being paid 45% on your GLP. So 45 plus 53 is, if my math serves me right, something like 98% APR, which is insane given that the underlying assets, which by the way do have proof of reserves, are all these blue chips over here. So if this is something that you want to accumulate anyway, this does seem like a really, really crazy way in order to not only participate in the Arbitrum chain and qualify for any potential airdrop, also earn some really good yield. Now, there are some caveats to this. Of course, there is a fee on redemption of 2%, which does mean that at 53% payout APR, you might need several weeks to actually break even from this. However, at 90% APR, this does seem like a good deal. It is, of course, paid in their native token, which is PLS. So whereas the first one, GMX, was real yield, they're paying you the fees from their protocol. This one is more like traditional yield farming that we saw in DeFi Summer, where native tokens are being paid out. Now, if you want to take this to an even more degen level, you can actually even borrow against your PLV GLP on VenderFi. It's another lending protocol on Arbitrum. However, I have not got to that stage yet because 2 levels of smart contract risk is plenty from my point of view, and we are already getting some pretty decent yields. So what are your thoughts on the overall Arbitrum ecosystem? Are you playing with it in order to get an airdrop eligibility slot, or are you staying away from crypto altogether? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. So all in all, I hope this video has been informative, interesting, and useful. If you liked it, do consider leaving a like and subscribing to this channel. As we mentioned, we are here to make DeFi mainstream knowledge. We are working on a completely revamped DeFi for Beginners course, so do stay tuned for that as well. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.